So what we'll do is when laying up film, actually I'll do this over there since we have a light box, we'll use it. These guys have a light box that has where your platen is, where the screen clamp is, where each platen is designed, and where your center line is. So you would want to put your screen onto that so you can see where the screen clamp is. And what I like to do is, once you figure out how that image is going to be, what I like to do is take some tape, put it facing up, then register it where you want it to be. We're going to print it on a smaller platen because this is a smaller screen. Line my screen up on center. And there you go. So when you go to press, you've now transferred all your numbers here to the press. So when this platen is on there and it's centered, you know that from the screen clamp up to where this is, now you've got it in a general area where you need to be able to print that. So it's not off to one side, or it's not off the edge of the palette, and it's just a simple tool to be able to get consistency to the press. Plus, if you go off of one target here and everything kind of registers off that, you've got less micro registration you need to do when you get to press. So a little bit of pre-flighting kind of here will make for less setup time on press. Questions? I'm going to throw this test strip on while we're at it. Let's see if we can get it in here. And then we'll take it over to the exposure unit. One of the things you want to make sure you really do, and I think it gets overlooked a lot, is make sure your glass is clean. A lot of guys will just throw it on the exposure unit and go less junk on the glass, transferring to the emulsion, less pinholes you're going to have. So just cleanliness is next to godliness. So, you know, do those little things to make sure that you're going to get good, clean screens. These are vacuum tubes that go to the vacuum area, and you want to make sure that air gets to the frame. So you want like either a rope or something going in there from wherever the vacuum intakes are if you ever get an exposure unit like this. A lot of them don't have a rope or anything like that, so when the vacuum blanket sucks down to the glass, there's no way to get any more vacuum to the frame, so you're pulling it tight. So you want to make sure you've got a connection to where the vacuum intake is. And we've got this set to 300 light units, what we've been shooting screens at. And it'll vacuum it down. It'll draw that film that we put on there very tight to the screen. As you can see. and then the light will kick on once it reaches a certain vacuum pressure. And you'll be able to see that in here once it gets up. It gets, I think it's about 15 bar that it gets to kick on. Any questions?
How long will this expose compared to
About 2 to 3 times longer. That's the difference in it. It's priced less per gallon. It has more chemical resistance. In some instances, it'll give better clarity and definition, but it's slower. So what you give up in dollars and cents, you have to give a little in speed, or gain in dollars and cents. Yes.
By like how much?
By whatever that product is, the pre-sensitized, by 2 to 3 times longer.
Which equates to how much minutes?
You may shoot a normal 160 mesh at 40 light units in a photopolymer. That's more like 300
Okay.
here. Or that's not a right equation. Maybe it's 80 units in the first shot of the photopolymer.
you say this might give you more clarity? Why would that be?
More solids content, and it's got more photo initiator, a different type of photo initiator that's in photopolymers, where that's an SBQ technology. This is more acrylic based and diazo sensitized, which gives you a little higher definition. Most of the real fine detail emulsions for graphics, where they're printing, 380 mesh, 420 mesh, and they're printing 120 line halftones. All that's really done with dual cures, because you can get a higher solids content. Those will usually come out high 30s solid content. You can get into low 40 solid content with a dual cure. So what I like to do is, in that window that's there of underexposed and overexposed, I like to be in the top end in my exposures, because now I know I can make that dot hard, and the emulsion's not soft. It's hard. I can develop it with a pressure washer, so I know I've got something that's consistent. I don't have to worry about having breakdown on press or having squeegee problems or anything like that, because it's soft. So I like to generate a hard dot, and I think that has a lot to do with it. There we go. And what I'm gonna do real quick, let me just grab a film and another screen before we wash this out. So underexposed one, we shot that one at 300 units. And we'll shoot this one at 200 units, and you guys can see the difference in the emulsion. So this one's in proper.
Would you put
Because it's different line screens and different dot structures, and you can just see how that washes out. So you can see, which is basically the difference of what you're seeing going on here. Like there's 100%, here's like a 50%, and you're seeing the different gradations, so you can understand that. Throw this back over on the light table. So you want to take it, stick it into the sink. If you've got a white backlit sink, when you go to do this, just shut the light off. Here we have light safe lights, so I can turn it on. If it's white light, you probably want to at least get it wet and get it soaked before you turn those lights on. Wet both sides. And a quick test is if it was underexposed, if at this point when you went to rinse it out and you ran your hand on the inside of it, and if it's slimy, just right then you know you're underexposed because it's soft. You haven't penetrated all the way through the emulsion with a light source to cure it all the way out. So if you've got residue in there, then you know I'm underexposed. That's just a quick test of hand. And that's just something I always do. I'll just kind of rub on the inside, and if I don't feel a lot of slime on my fingers, then I know I'm properly, or at least I think I'm properly exposed. I could be over, but consistencies. And you can see, for you that hasn't seen before, now it'll start to develop. And if you have properly exposed emulsion, you should be able to do that and the dots not wash off. So what I like to do is keep like an old squeegee nearby, squeegee off the water residue, both sides. And that just aids in trying to get as much water off it as possible to help speed up the drying. So you can just verify that screen by looking at it in the light and make sure you washed everything out. And we may be a little underexposed, but it seems okay. So
you don't rinse from both sides?
I get it wet. I'm not blasting it from the inside because we've created gasket on the print side, and you know you've got your most adhesion on that side. So if you go back to the other side, you may start to blow some stuff off, depending on how high your pressure is.